So today I'm here with my good friend SaraJane. She is an influencer amongst many other things and is also a mother. Actually, I want to say a new mother.
New mother.
You're
and
a new
old
mother-ish and an old mother because you have a 14-year-old, right?
He's almost 14.
Almost 14,
Yeah.
yeah. And then you just had another baby.
Yeah, 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? I don't have any of those age gaps at all.
Honestly, okay, it's the best and the worst at the same time.
I wondered about that. All
It
my
is.
kids are
It is
close.
the sweetest thing ever because, first of all, so my oldest is named Nixon, like you knew that, but and my youngest's name is Knox. But when we had tried forever to have a baby, and so just seeing Nixon having a little brother, he had like every single prayer we would say, he always prayed for a sibling. So that is the sweetest thing ever. Like the first time he held him, it like, oh, it like melted my heart.
So you guys waited over a decade
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and trying to have another baby.
Uh-huh. Yeah. It was just so
Wow.
crazy. Like the craziest thing ever. And honestly, Knox is a miracle to our family. It is just the craziest thing having a newborn now. I feel like I am right back to like being a first-time parent. Both my husband and I, right when we got back from the hospital, we were trying to change a diaper, and it took us like 25 minutes to change one diaper.
You're like, this has been so
We're like, how do
long.
we do this? Like, he pees all over the place. And we're like,
Oh.
and then we're wrapping him up, and then it's like something else. So anyway, it's so much fun, but it does. I mean, now looking back, I'm like, I had so much freedom before.
Oh, yeah.
Where I don't have that freedom
No, you
anymore.
don't. But it's the best kind of
Yeah.
chains, right?
Yeah, but seriously, we prayed for this baby so hard. Like, it was the biggest for me, like the biggest testimony builder. Because, okay, so I'll kind of tell you my little story.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
tell me.
okay?
No, I would love to hear, yeah.
So we had wanted this baby for a long time, and like for about 10 years. And for that whole 10 years, we were not trying consistently that whole 10 years. It was like, okay, we try for a year, and then maybe we take off like 2 years. Do you know what I mean? But
I
like,
know.
you know
It's
how it is. It's
hard,
like, I'm
yeah.
not even going to worry about it, whatever, you know?
Need a
And then
break.
there was like a point where I'm like, I'm okay with just Nixon, you know?
Yeah.
But probably like, so it's been like a year and a half. My husband was like, okay, I really, really feel like there's another spirit up there. And I'm like, I do too. Like, I really, really do.
You guys felt that.
We
Wow.
both felt it.
Yeah.
And my husband was like, we're both getting older, so we need to give this one last shot of like a round of infertility treatment, one last just everything. And so this was like, when he told me that was probably like March of 2022 when he said that. And so anyway, General Conference came around, and it was April.
So LDS General Conference?
Yes,
Okay,
LDS General Conference. So LDS General Conference came around, and that was April, and the prophet of the church, President Nelson, he said, seek and expect miracles.
Wow.
And so, yeah, so I kept thinking like, what are my miracles? What are my miracles? And so I kept praying. And for some reason, like when I watch General Conference, I take notes, whatever, and like things hit you differently, but like nothing had hit me so strong beside like never ever before in my life, except for those words like seek and expect miracles. So I kept thinking, where are my miracles? Where are my miracles? Like, I'm going to see them. And we see them all the time. Like there's little miracles that just happen all the time in our life.
Every
you know?
day.
And sometimes
Absolutely.
we don't really see them, but I really took it to heart. I was like, okay, I'm going to have big miracles that happen.
Yeah.
So anyway,
That's such good faith, by the way.
yeah.
I love
Well,
that.
I mean, it was kind of one of those things where I'm like, I'm going to put it to the test and see
Yeah.
if I have these miracles
for
waiting
you.
for me. And so, like just the fact that he said, expect miracles, I'm like, okay, I'm really going to expect these. Where are they?
Yeah.
And I was praying about it constantly and just like, bring the miracles on. Like,
And did you have that specific miracle in mind?
no.
Okay, so
I
you're just
did
like,
not.
whatever the miracles
Whatever
are.
the miracles are.
Wow.
But I just kept thinking like, well, and every prayer, I'm like, where are my miracles? President Nelson said, I'm going to have these miracles, bring them on. And there were just like a lot of things in 2022 that actually 2022 was a very hard year too, though. But I saw miracles through that whole year.
Wow.
But anyway, my husband and I decided to do one more round of infertility treatment. So we went to the doctor. He kind of gave us like our whole plan of what we were going to do. And I think it was like, he said, come back in 2 weeks and we'll start the whole situation or whatever, you know, and I'd made my appointments, bought all my medications and everything, which are not cheap.
No.
And I found out during that 2 weeks that I was pregnant, just randomly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
It
that gave me
was,
chills.
and it was like one of those moments for me where I was like, oh my gosh, this was a miracle.
A total miracle.
It was. So he's my little miracle baby.
You know, this is so interesting that you're saying this because you wouldn't know that you've gone through these struggles just by looking at your Instagram page. And you have a really large following. It looks as though your life is just perfect and you have
It's
this
not.
perfect. I know, it's anyone's lives. Are they really perfect? Anyone?
We put the best things on there. Like,
No, don't we all do
I
that?
think we all do that.
You know, if you look at that though, you're like, okay, she's this beautiful Barbie and, you've got this
That's
beautiful
you.
family and, oh no, you should see mine's pretty rough on there, but you just don't know what people are going through. And sometimes people are so mean, especially the bigger your following
Yeah.
gets. I mean, you've been attacked. We talked about this before. You've been attacked by people on there who don't even know you. And I wish people knew that everyone has a story. Everyone has gone through something so challenging. It's like 10 years of fertility. I can't even imagine that. I can't even imagine. Now I've gone through, we did 32 rounds of fertility treatments to get our kids.
I remember the first time you told me that, I was like, do you mean 3? And you're just adding a 2 to the end? Like, I could not even wrap my head around it.
Well, you kind of can though, but I mean, and I don't expect anyone to feel sorry for us at all because we got 6 children out of it, Okay, so I have a question for you.
Yes.
Weren't you cast on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City?
Yes, I was.
But you're not on these episodes.
No,
Okay, so tell me about that.
Okay, so you know Angie. That's how I
Yes,
met you.
yes,
Was from Angie. We went to her birthday party.
Yeah.
But yeah, so her and I, we both were casted at the same time. And we both were like, this is gonna be so much fun. Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so much
Ignorance
fun.
is bliss.
I know. For me, honestly, I think I went into it with like a blindfold on a little bit because I had never watched Housewives before then. And so I was just like, oh, this is gonna be fun. It's gonna be like a reality show, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, I'll just
But
be me.
I'll
It'll
just
be
be
great.
me. It'll be great. But it was not like that. And you know Angie's story
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And it's honestly like it seems so fun. And there's something about like gaining an audience. There really is. There's
Yeah.
something just like, oh my gosh, like I'll have this like big platform, this big
Yeah.
voice, whatever. But there's also a downside of that too. And I guess that's with just like being an Instagram influencer as well. Because with that, you get like all these negative comments sometimes, or people just don't agree with you.
Yeah.
And nobody's ever going to agree with you.
Right.
But Housewives was a little bit of a different story because I went into that thinking that I could like share light and share like all these experiences and stuff. And it was not like that at all. I was the only person that was like an active member of the church.
Yeah.
There were other people that were like members, but they weren't active.
Yeah.
And so that right there was really, really hard because Housewives, if you've watched the show, and since then I have definitely watched the show, and I found out very quickly that it's not about like uplifting people. It is about
Right.
just like
Contention.
contention and like table flipping and stuff like that.
And it seems like they almost kind of cast a negative light on the church too.
Yeah. So I feel like they did season 1, and I was not on season 1. I actually was in one episode on season 1, but it was just like I had been invited to a party.
Yeah.
You see me on camera. The girl that invited me to the party like introduces me and stuff. And so anyway, I was like on it for like 1 second.
Yeah.
And so anyway, they ended up casting me on the show, and I was really excited because I was like, okay, all the negative light they had shown towards the church,
Right.
I can go in and kind of like show, no, I'll show the truth. You know what I mean? Even though like going into that, I was never, ever, ever going to be, nor am I ever going to be a spokesperson for the church. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm a member and I want to make sure that people know the truth of it.
Right.
Like that is something that is really hard just in general these days. You have TikTok, you have all these different news outlets, and I feel like a lot of them portray the church negatively.
Oh, any source is going to portray things that aren't true about anything.
Yeah.
It's so hard to know like what actually is true.
It's true. Totally. So anyway, I went into it, and within like the first little bit, I was like, nope, this isn't right for me at
Yeah.
all. Which is so funny because I felt like I was supposed to do it. I
Yeah.
felt like I'm like, obviously I was cast. My husband felt okay with it, which my husband is the most private person in the world. Like, even if he's on my Instagram, people have said from my Instagram, they're like, does your husband really even like you? I'm like,
Oh,
he loves me,
what
but
a
he
horrible
doesn't like
thing
a
to say.
camera in his face all the time. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh
Like, he's the sweetest person ever. But I mean, if I were more that way too, where I was like a very private person and
Yeah.
stuff, I think I wouldn't want a camera in my face all the
Right,
time.
sure.
And I do feel like I am a private person. What you see on social media and stuff, it's just a small little bit of my life.
Right.
But anyway, he was okay with doing Housewives. And so I know, which was so weird. Like, my
Maybe
parents,
it's meant to be.
I know, my parents were both like okay with it. And like my family, I grew up in a very, very active family in the church.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, your parents have like gone on missions.
yes,
and-
yes, for sure. And so anyway, my parents like are very active. And I thought that asking them, and it wasn't like I was ever asking for their permission,
Right.
you know.
Just want to see what
But
they
I
think.
want to see
and
what
how
they think
feel, yeah.
because I respect my parents so much, and with the
Sure.
callings that they've been in the church, I feel like, oh, and they're my parents. I feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they can
They love
still,
you.
they love me, and I feel like even though I am an adult, my parents still like have that.
You respect them. You value their opinion.
Yeah, but they have that sense of like, you know, like your children right now,
Yeah.
you can tell when something isn't right for your child.
Yeah.
You
I
know?
feel like it's kind of like a spiritual jurisdiction over your children. If
For
you're
sure.
an active parent in their lives.
Totally. And I don't think that ever ends.
Right.
I think that is something that goes on forever, even
Sure.
when they're an adult. And so anyway, I asked my parents, and they were both like, they had never watched the show either, but they're like, yeah, go ahead, try it.
Were
Like,
you shocked when they said that?
like, yes and no. I think I was, because I was like, oh my gosh, like they're kind of like okay with this. And they knew enough about the show to know what it was about a little bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my parents have always been the type of parents that are like, okay, yeah, go ahead and try it. Like, if you don't like it, then get
your own
out, make your
decisions.
own decision. And
Sound like good parents.
yes, they're great, the best parents ever. And also kind of the type of parents that are like, well, if you make a mistake, well, we're going to let you make mistakes so
Yeah.
you can figure out
Sure.
what you really, really want in life, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I ended up doing the show after a couple weeks, like I said, and this was season 2. So after like a couple weeks of filming, I was like, oh, this is not for me at all. And for them, like the producers on their end, they were like, this is not for us, because they wanted me to fight with one of the other cast members.
Salacious gossip and
Yes,
contention.
but they wanted me to argue about the church.
Oh man.
And I was like,
Not
no,
doing that.
no. I'm just gonna lead by example here, you know?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I don't want to have fights about that.
Yeah, Bible bashing doesn't get anyone anywhere ever.
Never.
Yeah.
Never. Or just, you know, there's like political topics that people have like made the church look like they're part of or whatever. And I didn't want to be in that. I was
Yeah.
like, no. Like, I
Yeah.
don't want to get involved in any sort of like I just want to lead by example.
Sure,
And like,
sure.
obviously I want to like talk about being a member of the church, but I don't want to have to
Get
get
in
in fights
fights,
about it. Exactly. So anyway, what production does though, they are so good at making you feel like they still kind of want you. So after that, I was like, okay, maybe I don't want to do this anymore. And they were like, no, like we want you to come back. They kept COVID testing me like the whole season, like everything. And they'd like still keep talking to me on the phone. So I'm like, well, obviously they still want me on the show if they're still doing all of this,
Yeah.
you know? And so anyway, it was so weird. It went on the whole season.
Wow.
The whole entire season. They would like come to my home at like 8 a.m. in the morning, like 3 times a week, still COVID test me, everything. Like,
Wow.
what the heck? This is so weird. But they do it, I think, on purpose to make you feel like you almost like, I don't know what it is. Like you want to be in it, you know?
Maybe you
Because
owe
now you're
them or-
well, no. Well, maybe. But like for me, it got to the point where after I was like, no, I don't want to like be in this really. But they were still making me feel like I was a part of it without being on it. I'm like, well, if I'm going to be part of it, like let me be in it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, isn't that kind of weird? Like, it's like an abusive relationship.
Yeah,
Do you know what I
It's
mean?
gaslighting you.
It kind of is, and they're so good at that too, just making you
Wow.
feel that way. So anyway, I ended up never going back on season 2, but then season 3 came around, and for some reason, even though I didn't like season 2, I went back. Season 3. An idiot. And within the very first day of filming, I go up to one of the other cast members' stores in Park City, and this woman I absolutely love. She's so delightful and she's awesome. And I feel like the show always spotlights like you don't see the real person,
Right.
you know what I mean? But like I really love this woman, and we were production wanted us to talk about another cast member, and they were like, you need to say this, you need to say this, you need to say this, or like if you don't, you're done. So anyway, this time I was like, okay, I'm going to this has nothing to do about the church right now, but I am going to say what I want to say. Well, what they want me to say.
Yeah.
Kind of do it in my own way. But after I did what they said, I felt so sick.
Oh.
I was like, oh my gosh. Like I literally feel so gross.
And it was just gossiping about someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I just felt so bad. And it was nothing that was like a direct attack, but it was like you knew what we were talking about and insinuating, Yeah. So anyway, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so awful. I feel so sick, but crazy. So after that, I ended up not going back on the show. And the reason why I actually didn't go back is because I started kind of getting really sick, and I found out that I have a heart condition. It was the weirdest thing. So my husband was like, no, you can't be in stressful situations. You know what I mean? So actually, I think it was like a blessing in disguise, to like not go back onto the show.
Good thing you found that. You wouldn't have otherwise found that.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have.
Thank you, Real Housewives.
So anyway, yeah. So anyway, back to the Housewives part though, my husband was like, no, like we need to take all stress out of your life right now because of the heart condition. Like you are not going back on that show. And so anyway, I didn't go back on, but it's crazy because what we had filmed was some pretty juicy stuff, And I was like, they're going to like show this for sure. And they're going to put it out there and everything. And they cut everything.
And didn't you say when we were at lunch, you were saying you were so hoping and praying that they would not show some, because it didn't cast you in a good light, right? Like,
no. And the thing is it wasn't even anything. What they do on the show is like, I have to make it clear. This was mild compared to the other things that have been said on the show. But for me, I just don't ever want to be known as the person that's like talking about somebody like behind their back or doing stuff like that in a negative light.
Right.
And the show's all about that. So I should have known.
Okay, so correct me if I'm wrong, but there was a little bit of a falling out with you and Heather, and you guys are good now, I know, because I was at your baby shower.
Yeah, and she was there.
And you guys are such close, great friends and love each other. And I actually really respect this because this shows that you're both mature, kind adults, that you can totally disagree on something and something that's a very deep topic and still be close and respectful of one another. Tell me a little bit about that, if you don't mind.
So how you described it is how it ended. Like, I mean, like how it is now. But going through it, it wasn't like all
maturity.
Yes. Yes,
most
exactly.
Sorry.
So when season 1 on the show, they talked a lot about like the church, but nobody really on the show was like an active member of the church at that point.
Like, you can't really represent.
Yeah. And so anyway, there were things that were said that like, I mean, as any member of the church, the active member, it would probably kind of upset.
Right.
So anyway, I was not happy about it. And I was so stupid, and I took my feelings to social media, which is so dumb. Like, I don't know. It was a good lesson, though, because I don't really do that anymore. Like, I learned my lesson. I'm like, keep my feelings for my husband or like
directly to that person.
Or directly to that person.
Yeah.
Why do people have the need and feel like they need to go and share negative experiences for the entire world? You know what I mean? But
I really respect that you own up to where you you said your mistake is in this.
Yeah, I really did. And I should have never, ever done that. But I went on social media and I basically said, like, I never directly said Heather's name, but she knew.
You said this person said this.
Yes. So she knew it was targeted towards
What did you
her.
say? What was it that you said?
It had something to do, she had said something along the lines on the show, and I'd have to go back exactly to what she said, or maybe they made it look like she said it, which maybe she didn't. I had said that, and I had said like a couple other things in regards to what was said on the show, and never really pointing it at her. But anyway, she felt like it was a direct attack.
Oh.
And her friends that were close to her at the time felt like it was a direct attack. And so anyway, it turned into like a big, huge, like for a second, like she was so mad at me and stuff, and like she wouldn't talk to me or whatever. But I kept like trying and was like, and that's when I went back on the show. So season 2, when I was casted for the show, I think they knew that. They knew that I had gone on social media and said all that. And I think they wanted us to have like a major blow up.
They're like,
and I was like, oh yeah. I mean, honestly, for them, they probably saw that and were like salivating. They're like, this is going to be so good. You know what I mean? Because they thought that I would go and like probably attack on the show. But I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
I learned it so quick. I was like, oh my gosh.
Make mistakes.
We all make mistakes. And I did. I should have never gone on social media. If I really, really felt like I needed to say something, I could have said it to her in a very polite way, or just been like, hey, can you explain why you said these things? Or can you explain what makes you feel that way, or whatever, you know? Or just know it probably won't go anywhere because maybe those are her feelings. And so it's just like lead by example.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
You know what? I respect both you guys though, because like you said, you reached out to her several times, right?
Yeah.
Where she wouldn't respond.
Yeah. She was so mad.
She wouldn't respond to you, but you kept trying. That
did.
takes a very humble person to do that.
I kept trying.
Keep facing rejection over and over.
The thing is like, we'd been friends for a long time before that.
Yeah.
And so I would, in my mind, I kept thinking, obviously we were friends before, so we can get back there.
Yeah. And respect for her too, though, because, you know, she forgave. And
and
she was there at your baby shower, like doting on you and loved you. Yeah.
Yes. And we had made up like long before then too. But it is funny though, because I look at situations and like anything that Heather is a very forgiving person in general, you know, like, so I always knew that she probably would forgive me. I think she was just really upset and stuff. And she is stubborn too. And people like, sometimes it is hard to let go, you know, but she did. Yeah. And we're great friends now and stuff. And like you said, she was at my baby shower. She was so sweet to come all the way down here from Salt Lake and stuff. And, you know, every once in a while I'll send her a text, or she'll send me a text, just checking up on each other just to see how we are, because before the show we were friends for a long time before that. So,
you know what? Good for you too, being willing to share your beliefs online, because I would imagine, let me know if this is accurate, but I would imagine you probably faced some backlash for standing up for the church, because first of all, most people, I don't know if that's a correct phrase, but a lot of people are very much against religion right now, and especially people who outwardly defend a religion, and specifically the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So did you face backlash for defending the church?
Yes, I did. But I also had a lot of people say thank you. Like, wow, thank you so much for standing up for the church.
I really respect that. I respect anyone willing to stand up for what they believe, especially right now.
Yeah.
And then, you know, equally or maybe even more, I respect people who can come to a conclusion together and reach something together.
A resolution.
A resolution. Thank you. That's the word. Reach a resolution together kindly. That just isn't happening anymore.
No, and it's sad.
Like, I really respect that you and Heather did that.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
And we're great friends now. Yeah. And I love her. And it's funny how like the show will do that. I feel like the show, they do what they want to do is they want to put a wedge between the friendships, because if it's all happy, there's no show. They want to see people fight.
I don't know who wants to watch that.
Sadly, people love it when people fight, when they get to watch it. And I mean, there is a part of it where the drama, you sit and watch it and you're like, oh my gosh, like if I've ever watched The Bachelor, the person I like the most is the village, you know?
You can't wait to see what weird thing they're going to say next.
Yeah, but it's sad that as a society, me included, were that way.
So there's a lot of focus on our religion right now because, we've there's just a lot of people out there in the open. Tim Ballard
Yeah.
in Sound of Freedom, he's a very active member of the church, and there's a lot of focus on that movie right now. You have Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and people think that that's like a representative of our church. Not quite,
So funny.
because not one of them is actually an active member, I believe. So have you found that the church has helped you in your marriage?
Absolutely. For
How
me,
so?
I mean, I think people see on Instagram that you have like this perfect marriage, perfect
What they
family.
think, right?
But you do. As a couple, you go through things together, you have trials together, sometimes you argue or you fight,
Oh, yeah.
and it's the way it is. I read a book once, and it said in it, like, if you could see your spouse in their eternal, like, celestial glory, you would do anything for them. I guess one of the pros of, like you said at the very beginning, one of the pros about having the age gap between my two children without any children in between is when I first had Nixon, I always went to church. I did whatever they would say, like the commandments were. I always did what I thought was the right thing, and then but nobody's perfect, right?
Right.
But anyway, I think now having a child, like 14 years later, the difference I see, just even like when my child was born, having Nixon was a very sacred experience for me, because you're bringing a child into this world. Just like the veil is so thin right then, just having your baby, seeing your baby for the first time. But with Knox, having that understanding, like, seriously, right when he came out and I saw him, I really honestly was like, this is eternal. This is a sealed, signed, sealed, delivered. Like, I kind of get teary thinking about it.
It's the most beautiful.
It is.
Labor Day.
And when I had Nixon, obviously I knew that, but it hits different as you get older.
Yeah.
And just and I, like, as I had the baby, one of the thoughts that was kind of going through my mind was, this is eternal. This is eternal.
Yeah.
So anyway.
And that's probably what propels you as an influencer to be willing to put yourself out there to defend your beliefs, which not a lot of people are willing to do.
And I had not done that really in the past. People knew that I was a member of the church, but I had never really, like, gone out on a limb and, like, defended it like that. But I did.
Well, good for you. And thank you for your example. So this is SaraJane, everyone. SaraJane Warner. She's amazing.
You are.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this today.
Of course. I'm so happy to.